Hello everyone, my name is Austin Ouma, and today I'll be taking you through the process of importing Oracle dump files into an autonomous database using the CLI function of OCI Console. It's a pretty straightforward process, so let's just get into the demo. So here you can see my OCI console. And before we begin, there are a couple of things that we need to have as prerequisites. So because we're importing into an autonomous database, obviously we need to have an autonomous database already created and set up. The other thing that we also need is the dump file, because remember we are importing some dump file. Okay, so we need to have the dump file already moved into OCI and in a bucket somewhere. And then, of course, we also need to have our tokens, which is what will allow the autonomous database to access the dump file in the bucket. So the first thing we need to see here is I've already created my autonomous database. I have my autonomous database here called AD01. The database is up and started. Okay, so this is the first prerequisite. You should copy this OCID, and we will be using this later. I'll show you how. So you can show and then copy it and paste it somewhere, but have this information handy with you. Okay, so this is our autonomous database. Then as I mentioned, we also need to have our dump file available somewhere. So I've already created a dump file and moved it to OCI, stored that dump file in a bucket called ADW bucket, and I have several dump files here, and this is the dump file we will be using, tqgis2.dmp. Okay, now in this dump file, what you also need to do is to look at the details of this dump file. And you need to also take note of this URL path. Okay, so take a note of that. You can copy it and paste it on a notepad somewhere. Okay, so we've looked at the database, we've looked at the dump file, and finally, you need to have your tokens ready for your specific user. For that, you actually go down to your identity and security, your user, and then you can pick your username. Okay, so in my case, I'm using my account, my username. Where's my username? Yes, this is me. And I have already created some auth tokens. So this is where you actually do that. I've already generated some. I'll be using the top one here, auth3. In case you don't have one, you just generate, give a description, and generate token. Please make note of the token generated, because once you close that window, you are not able to see it again. So again, copy that, paste it on some, you know, text or notepad or something like that. Okay, so we already set up. We have our prerequisites in place. I go back to my autonomous database. I click on my database here, and this is where I start my Cloud Shell. Okay, so CLI. So I start my Cloud Shell here. I click on the Cloud Shell, and you will see that it is setting up the temporal machine, the Cloud Shell machine. Once that is done, then so the first thing that we're going to do in this instance is basically to generate our wallet. Remember, for you to connect to your autonomous database, you need to have a wallet file. So this is where we start by copying the OCID that we had actually picked earlier for our autonomous database. So we are just making our shell aware of the environment that we will be working on as we actually create our wallet file. So I just paste that there. So I'm just saying the ADB OCID is the OCID that we had actually copied earlier. And then, of course, part of the wallet is we will need the wallet name, we will need the password and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give a name here. We are going to call our wallet the wallet.zip file. So that just tells you the name of the wallet. And then we are also going to have the password to our wallet. Okay. Make sure you use the password complexity rules. So there we go. And then once we're basically just saying these are parameters and their values. So you can see the name of the database we'll be working with through OCID, the name of the file, and the password to my file. And then, of course, the last thing that we are going to do is to now generate um, the wallet file. And for you to be able to do that, this is the command that you actually have to execute. So we are just generating the wallet here for autonomous database. The database ID is the OCID that we've just given here. okay? The file name is the name here, and then the password is what we see here, okay? So once you do that, you just enter, and you will see that your file will be generated 100%. It means that our file has been generated, and let's see if we have our file with us. So I check where I am at the moment, and that's my home directory. And I just list what I can see in there. So you can see my file, my wallet file is already here. So what I'm going to do is to just unzip this wallet. Okay, unzip your wallet.zip file. Seems there's something there already, so let me just replace it. Okay, let me just replace it, yes. There we go. If I do an ls again, I'll be able to see that now I have several files in there with me. So that's my wallet file generated and unzipped. So the first thing we need to do is to confirm again our working directory, which is my home and name. So name is Austin_OT. So what I do is I go to my SQLnet, SQLnet.aura file, as you can see it here, and I edit this directory entry, okay? So what I do here is I edit this, so I can delete this and then put in my home directory, which was home/Austin_OT. Okay, make sure you have these quotes set, because if you don't have these around, then you're going to experience some issues later on. Okay, so that has been done. Let me save that file. And then, of course, after saving your SQLnet.aura file, the next thing that you're going to do is to actually export your TNS admin parameter. So we are just going to do export TNS_admin. This will set your variable so that it's easier for you to start executing your binaries, okay? So remember our home was TNS_Austin_OT, okay, /Austin_OT. I think that I got that right. Okay, so TNS_admin, yes, I think that looks right. And then once we have that, the next thing is let's look at what we have in our TNS names files, okay? And let us look at the services to connect to for us to be able to connect to our database. So you'll see the services that you're already used to for the autonomous database. So you see high, low, medium, okay? And then because our database is actually an ATP database, you will also see the TP and TP agent service names. Because if it is an ADW, then these last two entries, you will not be able to see. So let's say we will connect to autonomous database using these service names, so hi, okay? So that being done, let us attempt to connect to autonomous database, okay, and see what happens. So I will just do SQL plus, and then I have to use a user. So I'm using the admin. Remember, this is the user created when creating the autonomous database. And then I'm using that service name that we've already seen in the initial step, which is ad01_hi. Okay, this is if I want to hide my password. And then, of course, it will ask me to, enter my password here. Let me see, my password is, okay, it's kind of a long password. Let me see, I hope I get it correct. Otherwise, I'll just have to paste it there. I don't see a problem anyway. Let me hope I got that correct. There we go. So you can see we are already logged into our database. Our database is actually a 19C database. Okay, so you can see that Oracle database 19C. The fact that you can connect to this database and even now start executing some commands against the database just shows you that everything connectivity-wise is okay. So maybe we can just check the open mode from this database just to see if the database is up. and it tells us it's read write. We can also check, just to confirm your connectivity is okay. We can check the log mode. Good. This basically tells us that we are able to log into our database and everything is fine. So fine, we've done that. The next thing that we're going to do is to create credentials, our credentials. So these are the credentials that we are going to use for this autonomous database, okay? So there is a PL SQL script that you need to generate. So you remember the third prerequisite that we looked at was to ensure that you've generated a token, okay, for your username. And I showed you how to actually do that and to generate those tokens. Now, those tokens are the ones that you are going to actually have in your credentials. So I already have the PL SQL statement here, and I'm just going to paste it in my SQL prompt. And then you can see what we're basically saying here is that we want to create a credential. The name of the credential is going to be ADW_credential for this user. The user, this is my username, the user for which I clicked and created a token. And then the token is what you're also going to display here as your password, okay? So this is how to create your credentials for your autonomous database. What you just need to do is to execute that credential, a PL SQL. And once you see this PL SQL procedure successfully completed, then it means that your credentials have already been successfully created. If the credential is already there and you want a clean install, a clean create, you can drop the credential before actually setting it up again. You can also confirm that your credentials have been created by executing that command, and you can see this is the credential that we just created, a DW credential, and for this user called Austin Ouma. So this is the only credential we have for this database. Okay, so our database is set up. Our credentials are set up. Sorry about that. The next thing is we are ready to start our import process. Okay. So rather than execute a long import process, I recommend that we create a parameter file. Not necessary, but for me, I think it works. It's better off to be used and easier. So what I will do is to create a parameter file for my import. Let me call it import.par. Okay. And in my import.par, I will have these settings. So let me just show you these. So I edit my new file and I paste that. So I'm already saying that I will be using this credential called the one that we just created. I'm doing a schema import. So this is really your normal import that you may be used to. We've already set up our CLI, so I'm sure you'd be familiar with everything here. And then in our import, we are basically remapping to autonomous database. Remember, it has the data table space, but we are moving this data from the CRM data table space in the source database. There's something missing here, and you will realize that we've not put in the dump file, okay? So for you to put in the dump file, all you need to do is to have the dump file parameter and you say equals to, and this is where you will now paste the URI that we had discussed about at the beginning of when we were discussing the prerequisites, okay? So the URI that we are going to use here is going to be, let me check, I copied mine somewhere. I think it's the right one. And I just copy that and I paste it there. And I paste it there. So I hope this makes sense. This is my parameter file, okay? And this is what I'm going to call when I'm executing my import. So this makes sense to you. This is the credentials we'll be using, the schema that we are importing, and how we are remapping it. And of course, we are telling the parameter file where to get the dump file. Okay, so this is how to actually do that. Once you're done with that, let's just save our parameter file. Okay, and if we list it here, you are able to see that we have our parameter file here in our working directory. Okay, Austin. So that's it. Your CLI has been set up, your credentials, everything. You can now start your import exactly the same way you'd be used to doing it on premise or on SQL Developer or anything else. So that's it. Let me just start the command itself. Let's see how this goes. So let me just look for that imp file, and then let's see. Okay. So there we go. I will have imp use ID that, and then if I want to hide my password, I can choose to do that. The database name is, what was the database name? I think it was AD01 or something like that. I think it was AD01 underscore hi. Yes. So AD01 underscore hi. Okay, and then the other part of the import command that we'll be executing will, of course, be the PAR file. So we'll just tell the import command where the parameter file is. So we're already in our working directory, so I'm saying PAR file equals to our import parameter file here, okay? So there we go. And all I say is imp.par. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. So we will be importing, we are using these credentials, okay, to log into our database. And then of course, we are issuing our parameter file name, and you saw what I had inside the parameter file. You can edit it to your liking, whatever you actually want to do. So let me execute that. And then of course, because I decided to hide my password, it's asking me for the password. And what I just need to do here is to remember my password again. So let's see, DB, and then I think it's my name again. 1, 2, 3, and then, well, it's a long password. Let's hope that works. Oh, yes, it does. And I'm connected to my database, and immediately you will see that the import actually starts. That's it. Very simple, very easy, nothing complicated. This is how you actually perform your import into your autonomous database. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.